In 1950, a Japanese company was so close to bankruptcy that its founder resigned in disgrace, and workers went on strike for weeks. 50 years later, that same company would sell more cars than any other manufacturer on the planet, not through flashy marketing or radical design, but through a manufacturing philosophy so effective that American factories would spend decades trying to copy it. This is the story of how Toyota went from a struggling loom manufacturer to the most efficient car company in history, and nearly lost everything to one of the biggest scandals in automotive history along the way. Chapter 1. From Looms to Engines. Toyota didn't start as a car company. It began in 1926 as Toyota Automatic Loom Works, founded by Sakichi Toyoda, to manufacture automatic weaving looms. His son, Kiichiro Toyoda, became fascinated with automobiles after visiting Europe and the US in the late 1920s, and convinced his father to fund a new automotive division. In 1933, Kiichiro established an automobile department within the loom company, reverse engineering American engines, including a Chevrolet engine, to learn how they worked. By 1937, the automotive division spun off into its own company, Toyota Motor Corporation. The name was changed from Toyota to Toyota, partly because it was easier to write in Japanese katakana and considered luckier, requiring 8 strokes. World War II devastated Japan's industrial base, and Toyota barely survived the immediate post-war years, producing trucks under strict Allied occupation regulations. Chapter 2. The 1950 crisis that almost ended Toyota. By 1949, Toyota was in genuine financial peril. Post-war inflation and a credit squeeze left the company unable to pay its workers. In 1950, Toyota was forced into a brutal restructuring. Nearly 1,600 employees were laid off, sparking a massive labor strike that paralyzed the company for weeks. To save Toyota, its president, Kiichiro Toyoda, resigned and took personal responsibility for the crisis, a culturally significant act of accountability. The company survived only through emergency loans from a banking consortium and, unexpectedly, a massive boost from U.S. military procurement during the Korean War, starting in 1950, when Toyota received orders to build trucks for United Nations forces. This crisis planted the seed for what would become Toyota's defining philosophy. Never again would the company overextend itself financially or overproduce beyond actual demand. Chapter 3. The system that changed manufacturing forever. Out of that near collapse came the Toyota Production System, TPS, developed primarily by engineer Taiichi Ohno starting in the 1950s. TPS was built on 2 core ideas: just-in-time production, meaning parts were only manufactured exactly when needed rather than stockpiled, and Jidoka, meaning automation with a human touch, machines that stop automatically when a defect occurs, preventing bad parts from moving down the line. Ohno was reportedly inspired by American supermarkets, where shelves were restocked only as items were purchased, rather than stockpiled far in advance. This eliminated the waste of overproduction, excess inventory, and defects that plagued traditional manufacturing. The results were extraordinary. By the 1960s and 70s, Toyota could produce vehicles with dramatically fewer defects and lower costs than American manufacturers using traditional mass production methods. When the 1973 oil crisis hit and gas prices quadrupled, Toyota's small, fuel-efficient, reliable cars like the Corolla suddenly became exactly what American consumers wanted, and Toyota's export numbers to the US exploded. Chapter 4. America Fights Back. By the early 1980s, Toyota's success had triggered a political crisis. American automakers, unable to compete on cost or reliability, lobbied Washington for protection. In 1981, the US government pressured Japan into a voluntary export restraint, limiting the number of Japanese cars that could be sold in America. Rather than retreat, Toyota adapted brilliantly. To get around the import restrictions, Toyota began building factories directly inside the United States, opening a plant in Georgetown, Kentucky in 1988, and a joint venture with GM called NUMMI in Fremont, California in 1984, which doubled as a way to study American labor culture and prove TPS could work with American workers. In 1989, Toyota launched Lexus, a luxury division designed to compete directly with Mercedes-Benz and BMW. Built on the philosophy that luxury didn't require sacrificing Toyota's reliability standards. Lexus succeeded spectacularly, disrupting the luxury car segment within just a few years of launch. Chapter 5: The Unintended Acceleration Scandal. By the mid-2000s, Toyota had become the largest automaker in the world, surpassing General Motors in global sales in 2008, for the first time in GM's 77-year reign at the top. But Toyota's reputation for near-flawless reliability was about to be shattered. Starting around 2009, reports surfaced of Toyota vehicles experiencing sudden, unintended acceleration, cases where cars reportedly sped up uncontrollably, allegedly linked to floor mat entrapment of the accelerator pedal, and, more controversially, potential electronic throttle control issues. The scandal exploded after a highly publicized 2009 crash in California that killed 4 people, traced to a stuck accelerator. Toyota recalled over 9 million vehicles worldwide between 2009 and 2010, one of the largest automotive recalls in history. Toyota's CEO, Akio Toyoda, grandson of the founder, was summoned to testify before the U.S. Congress in 2010, a deeply humbling moment for a company built on a reputation of quality. Toyota eventually paid over $1.2 billion in a settlement with the U.S. Department of Justice in 2014 to resolve criminal charges related to how it handled the crisis and communicated with regulators. Chapter 6: The Recovery and the Hybrid Bet. Toyota's recovery from the recall scandal was aided by a strategic bet it had made over a decade earlier: hybrid technology. In 1997, Toyota launched the Prius, the world's first mass-produced hybrid vehicle, a gamble that many analysts initially mocked as a low-volume niche product with no real market. That gamble paid off enormously once gas prices rose and environmental awareness grew in the 2000s. By the time of the recall crisis, Toyota's hybrid reputation and enormous global scale allowed it to absorb the financial and reputational hit and rebuild trust faster than almost any other company could have. Today, Toyota remains one of the largest and most profitable automakers in the world, continuing to expand its hybrid and hydrogen fuel cell technology while competing in the broader shift toward full electrification. Conclusion: Toyota's story isn't one of dramatic founders or flashy marketing. It's a story about discipline. A company that nearly collapsed in 1950 built a manufacturing system so effective it forced the entire global auto industry to relearn how to build cars. And when its reputation was nearly destroyed by scandal, decades of trust and a well-timed bet on hybrid technology helped it recover faster than anyone expected. Toyota proves that sometimes the quietest companies build the most unshakable empires, not through revolution, but through relentless, disciplined improvement.